I'd like to introduce my next guest, Dr. Mark Quarto. And normally Quarto Technical Services here, but here for a different reason. We'll get to that in just a moment.
Sure.
Hybrid EV, I still meet technician shop owners around the country who are standoffish about it. You know, they're like, oh, no, it's not going to happen kind of thing. Recently saw a report, I want to say it was 2030, 2025. It was pretty soon, where the indicators was that as much as 30% of the vehicles on the road by then are going to be electric power, have some electric power concept. And if you want to know about hybrid and EV, this is the man to talk to. Dr. Quarto, thank you so much for taking some time to be with me this morning.
Yeah, Pete, I appreciate the time, and glad to sit down and talk to you.
Yeah, I mean, we've worked together some in the past. Of course, you have a background with General Motors.
Correct.
You've been involved with hybrid EV design from day one.
Yeah, actually, my family and I started a hybrid business back in 1987, believe it or not, well before the hybrids hit the market here. But I was going through school at the time, and I thought the best way to learn about power electronics was to build something. So we actually started a business back in '87. We actually had a proto built by 1990.
Wow.
And so it was being looked at by companies. PepsiCo was one. Domino's Pizza was another. They were looking at it for delivery vehicles and stuff like that. But they told us at that time, because California wasn't interested in hybrids back at that time, they said, well, we don't think hybrids are going to make it. It's going to be electric car only. And little did they know, of course, back at that time, that we needed an intermediate step, somewhere to be able to make the EV stuff later on. So we closed up that business in 1993, and then I got recruited into the EV1 program at GM after that, and worked electric car the rest of the way. So it's been a long time. This is the 35th year I've been working with electrics and hybrids. So most of my time is spent on the engineering side, but I do training on engineers and technicians. It is a little different teaching the two groups.
Sure.
I started out as a technician many years ago. After I got out of the military, I kind of wrenched my way through school, taught for GM in the classroom at a GM training center for a while, and taught technicians, and then moved past that into the engineering space. But I enjoy working with technicians because that's where my roots are. And so I enjoy working with them more because they're practical. Engineers can be a little bit more theoretical. I'm more of a practical guy. I think as a technician first and an engineer second. And so my life is just kind of built that way.
Yeah.
So,
now, I understand that you're here at NACAT in support of a program, I think it's called EV Pro.
Correct.
Right? So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the EV Pro Plus program, actually the genesis was a grant that was started back in 2015, and it actually started with a gentleman by the name of Ken Mays out of Central Oregon Community College. And what Ken saw back then was that there was no standardization of hybrid and electric vehicle curriculum around the country. You could go into any place and everybody's got something different.
Right.
And so what he wanted to do is he wanted to standardize, actually take a hybrid and electric curriculum and then create standards around that. And so that everyone could at least get around the core fundamentals of them. And that's really what was missing. There's a lot of good product information, but when you get down to the core technology stuff, a lot of that's missing. So what Ken decided to do was to get the grant. It's a National Science Foundation grant, NSF grant. And so Ken got the grant and got started, and then Ken gave me a call because he and I knew each other and said, I've got this grant and I want to develop some standards, but I want to make sure that the standards are, we're zeroing in on standards and targeting the right thing. So so anyway, I started working with Ken, and what this is all about is the NSF grant really develops the training standards, but we tied them to industry standard. So we wanted to make sure that we had standards, training standards that were tied to SAE or the IEEE or other organizations. And we wanted to take the standards from there and drive it into the training standards to make sure that we weren't inventing things that weren't linked to standard.
Sure.
So as an example, and you know this very well, that when you test a fuel pump, when you want to test a fuel pump out, there are some standardized ways of doing that. There's pressure, there's volume, you can put them on scopes, you can look at signals. There's a lot of ways to do that. We wanted to do the same things with electrics and hybrids, but we wanted to nail those to industry standards, so we did. And so those standards are done. We actually completed those in May of this year. We also did fuel cell, that was a little tougher to do. I have a fuel cell background. I worked fuel cell for 4 years at GM. And so along with doing the electrics and hybrids, we threw the fuel cell stuff in as well. And so there's also standards for those. Those standards, those training standards can be downloaded. They're public because it was an NSF grant. So they can be downloaded by any college to take a look at them to say, here's the training standards for electrics and hybrids, and this is the way you can build your curriculum. So there's also another grant that Ken's working on right now, and this one is going to be targeting now, how do we train the instructors? This is now going to be big because now, okay, we got the curriculum and that's fine, that's all being done, and we have things laid out on, how things need to be meched out for that, but that doesn't mean that the instructors will be able to teach that. So Ken said, okay, well, I'm going to go get another grant, and he did. They're working on it right now. Actually, they're completing the writing of the grant, and I think it's a Department of Energy grant, if I remember right. I don't think it's an NSF grant, but I could be wrong about that. But anyway, this one's really going to be targeting, okay, now we want to really roll this stuff out to schools, but we have to make sure the instructors are trained and things like that. So now we've moved from curriculum and the education side, now we're going to be moving over to the instructor side and then rolling this out to schools. And I think, and again, don't quote me on the numbers, but I think Ken has got either 12 or 15 colleges targeted to be the ones that this is where this whole thing's going to start. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what we've been working with EV Pro Plus. So you can, any school can download the standards. There's a website for that. I don't have the website off the top of my head, but they can be. It's actually part of the Center for Automotive, and I'm going to screw this up, something technology out of Macomb Community College. Okay. It's in their database there. So it can be downloaded there. And then, like I said, there's subsequent stuff that's going to be for instructors and for colleges. So Ken's been very busy guy, but he's been recruiting in advisory boards. I've been helping him out as well. There's been other individuals that have helped out as well. So we think it's the right step. Because there's just an explosion, of course, in EVs, hybrids, fuel cell, you name it, across every transportation space. It doesn't matter. Even aircraft. I have some aircraft clients, electric aircraft clients, and class 4 through 8 vehicle. They're all electric. They're all going electric. So agriculture, construction, you name it, they're all going electric. Some of them completely autonomous. If you get into agriculture, a lot of those things are completely autonomous today, and they're electric driven. So we know it's needed to make sure that whatever we want technicians to know, whatever we want instructors to know about the technology, about the core stuff, that's what the EV Pro was all about, was taking the NSF grant information and driving it now into how it's going to be proliferated out to schools and instructors.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great. I mean, and I'm sure that it's very much needed, because I'm sure that you've probably seen in your experience, as you mentioned, with the explosion of these programs around the country, misinformation can be prevalent, right? Yeah. I mean, it's something that, and so having a standard like this is very, very important.
Yeah, I think what's missing, and unfortunately, this is, I think, what happened in the industry period, is that the cars came out with the advanced technology, and we didn't have the 110 years of experience like we did with gas and diesel.
Sure.
And so what happened is the cars came out, they went out into the field, and we went like from A to Z, and we missed everything in between. We missed all of the nuggets that we had with traditional vehicle. traditional vehicle, we iterated over time. You know, we started out back at, let's say, just 1900. I'll just use round numbers. But we've iterated over time through the 30s, 50s, 60s, 80s, and so on. We've been able to take small chunks, and we've learned that over time.
Right.
We haven't had that time to do this, and so we missed that. There's a gap there that we missed, and we recognize that. And there is a lot of misinformation because somebody may say, well, I think it works like this or it works like that, or I think I can use this diagnostic tool, or this may be something, and it may not be the right application for that. It just may not be the right one. There are applications for diagnostics and repair. The diagnostics are the key. It's like everything else, Pete. You know, once you know what to replace, that's I don't want to say it's easy, but it's easier when you know for sure. It's 100%. You know when something. If you have a spring in a suspension that breaks and you can see it visually,
right,
you know that's the problem, right? With electrical, it's not quite as easy, and sometimes you have to use different techniques to be able to find that out. And we haven't taught those techniques. That hasn't really been done yet. We're getting there, but the standards that are within EV Pro Plus actually address that and get into that. Some things are fairly sophisticated, some things are less sophisticated, but these are things, if you think about it over time with traditional vehicle, we've developed sophisticated things over time, okay? It's just,
sure,
but we've had a lot of time to do that.
Right.
With electrics, we haven't done that. We haven't had that time. So the technology has just come at us guns blazing, and we haven't been able to address that. And that's one of the reasons of why Ken decided that he was going to do this thing, and he really he's got a passion for it, saw it and said, yeah, we really need to do this thing, and let's do it.
Sure. Do you foresee that perhaps this may become like a standardized requirement among the colleges, or?
I think someday it could be. I don't think it's there yet. I don't think that they've really internalized that yet, because I don't think that they've seen the standards yet. Once they see the standards, I think it could be. Sure, it could be, and I think it probably should be. I don't think it's been internalized yet. I think there will be a whole nother generation of instructors that's probably going to have to grab this and go.
Yeah.
We're in a time right now where we're transitioning over from traditional to electric, and it takes time to learn. This is like engines 101 all over again, fuel systems 101, transmissions 101. All over again, and there has to be enough runway. It has to be enough time horizon. And I'm a boomer. I'm close to 67 years old, and the time horizon for me is short for remaining in the field. And there's a lot of the boomers that are like that, and they may not see the need for them to take the next 10 or 15 years to learn it. But the younger guys are going to have to step up and do that. These are the younger instructors, the younger technicians are going to have to step up, because they're going to be completely engulfed in this stuff. It's going to be everywhere. This is going to be their life. And so we're going to need, I think once we get a core group that does embrace that, I think it'll become standardized where these are things we have to do. Yeah. And I think the colleges will accept that. But I think we're in that period right now where we're crossing over, and it's tough during the crossover period to implement things. When you're actually trying to balance traditional and electric, and you're in that no man's land right now, and you're trying to make that go.
Yeah.
I think it'll eventually get there. I just think it's going to take a little time.
Yeah. And one more question for you. I mean, see the importance of the educational side. What about the actual in the field technician side? Do you see these being applied to technician standards?
I think there's the way I see it, it's yes. Again, I think that's going to take time to do that. I think that once technicians really find out, I think once they get a core of how easy this stuff really is to work with, because it really is easy. It's like anything else, Pete. Once you know how to build a house, you look at it before you build it and you say, man, I got this monstrosity I got to build. But once you build it, you can say, well, that really wasn't that bad to do that. Understood. I think we're in the same boat right now. I think, again, we're transitioning over, and I think that technicians, once they find out what tools are necessary, what techniques are there, how to do certain things. The boogeyman in the closet is always tough, until you open up the door and turn the light on and find out there's really nothing there. And so I think that's where we're at right now. But I think that they'll accept it once I think they've been immersed in it a little bit. So I think it's going to be fine for them. I see it all the time. Once they get the explanations and once they find out how to test and do, I think they find it's very easy.
Yeah. So one last question for you. If there's educators or even technicians who want to know more about how these standards and how they're being created and implemented, where can they go for information?
Well, what they can do is if they want to go to the EV Pro Plus website, they can do that. So it's it's EV and then Pro and then Plus, PLUS.com. They can go there and they can take a look at the EV Pro Plus program. And that basically is the outgrowth of the NSF grant. If they want to take a look at the actual standards, they can go to the Macomb Community College CAAT site, CAT site, and they can download the standards from there. I'm going to be doing a presentation tomorrow, a keynote tomorrow, and the website addresses will be up there for those that want to go download those. So they're easy to find. Macomb Community College's site is great. They're easy to find, whether it's the electric vehicle stuff or the fuel cell stuff. Either one, the standards are there to download.
Yeah. And I know these also involve some technical training of your own.
Correct.
Boot camp, I think, is one
Oh,
of
yeah.
the programs.
Yes.
So if there's technicians who want to expand their knowledge, I know you go beyond just the EV portion.
Sure.
Where can they find out more about the services and programs that you offer?
Yeah, if they want to take a look at some additional training that would support whatever they want to do on their electrical side or their EV side and so on, they can go to futuretechauto.com. So it's future and then tech, TECH, auto, AUTO.com, futuretechauto.com, all one word. And there's plenty of pull-down menus there. They can take a look at things like the boot camp, which we get into, electronic circuits. We actually teach, transistors, resistors, capacitors, and so on. A lot of electronic devices, IC chips, and then we also teach technicians to introduce them to how to code controllers. And that right there, it really turns a lot of lights on. And what they say is, this is all that's behind that, and we say, yeah, that's it. So there's of course a lot of software behind the controls. Sure. That, but once you remove that veil of secrecy and you get into actually having them, actually plug the stuff in and make something work. By the way, whether it's we do motor control, we do a lot of relay control, things like that, but we do it through a controller. And you tell the controller when you want to do it, how long you want to do it, how you want to do it, all that. We do all that in there. And I think it's a real benefit for the technicians to understand what's going on behind the scenes so that when they get on a car, their thought process completely changes because they're saying, okay, I understand what's going on behind the curtain here. And they may take a different approach on how to do their diagnostics because the more you know about something,
Sure.
you're going to develop different things on the way you do it.
Sure, that's great. Hey, thank you so much for taking the time. I know that you're a busy guy.
Sure.
For sharing the information. Guys, if you're watching, educator, technician, shop owner, like it or not, EV's in your future. Hybrids have been around for, oh my gosh.
Almost 25 years. Yeah, almost 25 years. Yeah.
So, time to get on the bus, guys, the electric bus. And one of the resources that you have is EV Pro Plus, and of course, Dr. Quarto at Quarto Technical Services.
Thank you so much, Pete. Appreciate it.
There you go.
Thank you.